Mark chapter 13, verses 3 and 4. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives over against the temple, Peter and James and John and Andrew asked him privately, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign when all these things shall be fulfilled? Okay, let's have a look for verse 5, the sign. Maybe you have heard a lot of talk about signs and wonders and so on, and we can do greater things than he has done before. They are talking about Jesus Christ and disciples and so on, what they had done before. And they can do greater things, but seldom can see anything really happening. Well, there is a lot of talk about signs, and people get healed, and different kind of prophecies which haven't ever come to true, and so on. So it means that practically there is no such signs than there was in the times of Apostle and Jesus Christ. And it's a very sad thing, because some people really think they are healed or something, or they have been claimed for someone that someone has healed in some healing ministry and some church where is some healings and so on, and great healing matters happens and so on. But unfortunately it's not true. Of course, God can heal whoever and whenever, now when he wants. It's not impossible to him at all. But when he do it and when he not do it. That's the thing. But let's have a look for the sign of verse 4 and have some clarification about the matter in this little doctrinal study. The sign of verse 4 has nothing to do with the destruction of Jerusalem. Peter, James, John and Andrew were asking for a sign of Christ's coming and of the end of the world. Matthew 24, verse 3. So while there may be some things in the Olivet Discourse that can be applied historically to Titus in Anno Domini 70, the main application, the doctrinal application, will be prophetic, dealing with the end times, verses 7 and 13. We will point out the double applications as we go through the chapter. Of course, the disciples asked for a sign because the Jews require a sign, 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verses 22. Their nation began with the signs, Exodus 4, as long as God deals with and through those Jews, the Lord gives them signs. Mark chapter 16, verses 17 to 20, Acts chapter 2, verse 22, 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 12. When God stops dealing with those Jews as a nation, the signs cease. For example, 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 20. It says, Erastus abode at Corinth, but Trophimus have I left at Miletum sick. So he was there sick, not to be healed. But in the tribulation, after the church has been called out of this earth, the Lord starts dealing with Israel again, so the signs come back. And now see Revelation chapter 11, verses 5 to 6, or actually verses 3 to 6. And I will give power unto my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. These are the 2 olive trees and the 2 candlesticks standing before the God of the earth. And these are Moses and Eliah and Moses. And if any man will hurt them, fire proceeded out of their mouth and devoured their enemies. And if any man will hurt them, he must in this manner be killed. These have the power to shut heaven, that it rain not in the days of their prophecy, and have power over waters to turn them to blood, and to smite of the earth with the all plagues as often as they will. So there is some signs coming back. And that's the situation when this church has been raptured already, and there will come in the time of tribulation, there will come a gospel of the kingdom, and these two prophets, Elijah and Moses, will come on the stage, and they will start making these signs. The signs given here are signs of Christ's second advent, not rapture. But even if the signs aren't meant for you, you can still read them. One person before used to give an illustration about driving up to 1-75 to his home in Milford, Ohio. He would see signs for Dayton being so many miles, but he wasn't headed for Dayton. He was headed for Milford. But he knew the closer he got to Dayton, the closer he got to Milford, because Milford was something like 35 miles before Dayton. So if you see a sign for the second advent, you know the rapture must be all that much closer, because the rapture of the church takes place before the tribulation, and the second advent is at the end of the tribulation. So even though the signs are not for you as a Christian, they can still be an encouragement to you. So signs will cease and they will come back and so on. But what comes to, how could I say, even more important than the signs, there are some signs which are still working in some certain way. I don't talk about now healing and maybe not so much, prophecy in some manner, but not like before. But especially what is important now. Now only what you invested in the souls of men will last. Signs can cease and so on, but what you invest in the souls of men will last.